food shortages, and dead money. Stay tuned. Welcome to Wealth Transfer News. I'm Terry Saka. So today we're going to get into discussing, I think, the very important situation that's evolving worldwide. Now, we've talked about it lightly when it comes to the food crisis, but I'm going to show you some very stark things. This is very, very biblical. And so I want to get into that because the food shortage is going to go along with what we call the dead money scenario. And what does dead money mean? They're printing this into such an extreme level right now that you'll see as we go along with the program. But they just announced a $3 trillion. They're going to work on a $3 trillion slush fund for the Green New Deal, welfare, you name it. They're just destroying our currency. So it's really important to see where this is going. And the food thing is amazing because we've been on it for a little bit. But it's actually evolving, and it's very important to pay attention to because there's going to be some serious inflation to that. So I do encourage you, before we get going, we do YouTube, and go to Wealth Transfer News at YouTube because we do have the Rigged podcast against you that airs every Friday, and you can catch all of them at the YouTube. And then you can share that with family and friends that don't have this program in their television network. And I also encourage you subscribe so we can kind of gauge where we're going with the content that we're going to put up there. I know it seems like some of the stuff on YouTube, I'm surprised we haven't been censored yet, probably because we're a little smaller, but that's okay. The information is extremely relevant, and I will try to remain as clean as I can to get away from the glitches or claws of the censoring social media. So, but I want to get into the food because this one's different for me. And we've talked about it before, but I'm feeling it. I'm seeing what is going to come. This is a cyclical issue. We have 7 billion people in the world. And with what's going on with the locusts eating through the African regions in the Middle East, what's going on with fires that were taking place in Australia that were burning down tremendous amount of farmland, what's taking place in South America, and what is taking place here in the United States is something we're going to have to take note. Now, obviously, weather can change. We can have an adjustment. Things can get better. But as population grows, food is one of the basic essential needs, and it's very, very important. And on a side note to that, talk about geoengineering. And I'm not going to get off that rabbit hole, but folks, if you haven't seen the videos of the snow that fell in Texas, there's some weird stuff going on. People were picking up clumps of snow that were on the ground in Texas during that snowstorm, and they were putting lighters to it, and it wasn't melting. Think about that. The snow wasn't real. It was some form of geoengineered snow. I don't know if it was mixing with the oil or natural gas fumes in the atmosphere. Who knows? But you got to check out some of those videos on it. The snow in Texas wasn't real snow. And so they're messing around with our world, and it's not a healthy situation. And in lieu of what we're seeing in our weather patterns, food will be important for each and every one of us, not just from the enjoyment of ice cream and pizza. Food is our survival. If, in the animal kingdom, they wake up to eat. As humans in the old days, you got up, you worked to eat. We take advantage of that in America because we can go to fast food and we have refrigerators and pantries. But it's a serious problem. So I want to start off by showing you, take a look at this. This is an interesting biblical aspect of what's coming. This is an image of the United States is on the verge of a global crisis. One bank warns of a biblical surge in food prices. This could exacerbate geopolitical risk, potentially even regarding institutional architecture. Now, what's interesting about this, the geopolitical risk, China is ferociously acquiring assets around the world to feed their people. It's not a surprise that Bill Gates bought a tremendous amount of farmland in the United States, which I wouldn't trust. But the point being, food is becoming a very serious commodity. And this biblical aspect the bank is talking about is because not only are the locusts and the fires destroying it, but then you're having population explosions. But then the United States itself is having a very serious issue. And it's going to go a little more on the biblical side, I think. We may be experiencing what took place in Genesis. Take a look at this. We've talked about the commodity super cycle. Well, this is a biblical lean and mean dreams of an agro-commodity super cycle. Genesis 41:17 through 21, where the Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Behold, in my dream, I stood on the bank of the river, and suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt. Such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7 and the fat cows. When they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as the beginning. So I awoke." That was a very big time, obviously, right? Drought was taking place, or it was prophesied, and Joseph was shown that through these dreams that there was going to be these 7 years of plenty that we were to save up and be prepared. And then there was going to be a drought that was going to wipe out, literally wipe out a vast majority of the population. And by preparing properly, they were able to not only save the people, but then, of course, Joseph saved all of his brothers and the family, and we know that part of the biblical history. Not to say that this is going to be that epic, but folks, I actually think it's close. We have serious systemic issues. Has created such an economic condition when you have less of an income and explosions in the prices of food and other commodities. It's going to put tremendous pressure on people and families all over the world. And we're just getting started. Now, the image of it is stark. So let's take a look at this from a radar point of view, and so you can see what I mean. But the bottom line is the colored areas denote drought. As of March 11th, 2021, look at the midsection of this country all the way over to the left, even as high as Montana and North Dakota. This is a very serious issue in the United States. And this is what's going on right now in our food production. Now, we still have food, don't get me wrong. The United States is definitely endowed with the ability to, produce food. But this is what's going on in the United States right now. And I don't know where that's going to lead to crops. Now, we're seeing a massive increase in soybean prices, corn prices, wheat, and it's going to translate over into food, products we eat, clothing, you name it. And this is just the beginning. This is just the United States. It's not showing you the South American region, what's going on in Africa with the locusts, what happened in Australia with the fires, because that was such a bad fire in Australia. As they were normally major exporters of wheat, they had to become importers. And so you're going to start to see not only prices increase, but you're going to see pressure on families around the world as they can no longer feed. You're going to start to see anarchy and chaos. This is what the Arab Spring was all about when the food prices spike like this. It's not a good thing. We're going to see inflation, and it is going to be unbelievable, especially when they continue to pass these trillions in stimulus. I highly recommend starting to get diversified, folks. This is not a time to take lightly, and it's not about price. We're talking about stuff like this. Who cares about the price? It's about a tangible asset that you can own for the future when you see where this is going. Got to take a quick break. Be right back.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. I encourage you, contact Cornerstone. Get started with the information. It's not easy out there. It is definitely getting more difficult to get gold and silver. Silver is becoming difficult in the supply chain. There are definitely delays in the system in manufacturing and minting, but it's important to get a hold of it, because if you're holding on to this type of asset base in paper, stocks, bonds, currencies, you're holding on to just paper, folks. It is vital that we consider diversifying is something you can put your hands on, even in your IRAs, retirement accounts, if you want to have a stable standard of living for the future. Now, what is driving the demand? Well, it's overall population. We have a 7 billion plus ticking time bomb here on the earth, and we're kind of venturing into this moral decay of days of Noah, right? I mean, all you can do is look around our country and look at the big cities to see where we're at. We are literally in days of Noah, in the perversion, in the sadist, addictive, just sick stuff that's taking place in our culture and worldwide. So we're breaking down in a moral fabric, and yet our population is growing. So who's driving this? Well, it's China. And in doing so, they're accumulating natural resources, assets, and controlling food. Now, here's a good paragraph that kind of puts it in perspective. This is exactly why we're seeing this happen. China is driving demand. It is aggressively bidding for supplies to fill shortfalls and pad inventories. Convalescence from dual pandemics, African swine flu, and now this has led to a surge in agri-imported demand. And then, therefore, the global price is rising. The most remarkable increase have been in feed grain, energy source for animal protein, and ethanol. China's imports of these have risen almost threefold in a year to address a structural supply gap that cannot be addressed by domestic production. It goes on to say, China's moves are single-handedly testing supply chains to their limits. The saving grace for global markets have been that world demand across many of China's favorite imports was absent or squeezed until now. But now they're coming back into play, and now it's kicking back up. And China is one of the dominant, population, let alone economic-driven nations in the world. They are ferocious in attacking the systems of the West. They own probably a third of our politicians. They own our academia. They own a lot of Hollywood. They're either bribing them or they blackmail them. This is really bad stuff. Our current administration is pretty much owned by China. Now, they try to play hard. China controls this. Are you kidding me? Russia and China are laughing their tail off at the idea of... I am really embarrassed right now for America. We are in serious moral decay. We are in a decrepit state of leadership, and our leaders are overwhelmingly corrupt financially, morally, ethically, integrity, and China knows it. I wouldn't be surprised, and my producer was even mentioning, if you follow kind of the whole TikTok scenario, which I don't, but he was saying that the whole narrative and division in our nation from one side of the politics to the other was driven through videos, what we did a program on, internet activities. interactive internet activities, which is an old CIA program where they insert ideas and they divide people and they put things in your mind that don't even have to be true, that divides the nations, divides the people. And I believe vision. And so it's bad because they want to control, they're like locusts. They want to eat and control every aspect of the world. And they're right now infesting the United States at a very high level. And it's not good and it's not healthy. Now, why this is important, because not just the fact that food is one of the basic, as Maslow's hierarchy of needs goes, food is it, right? I mean, you got food, you have shelter, but food is key. But on the heels of a diminishing currency system, on the heels of things that you've worked your life for to save, for your standard of living, for the inheritance to your children's children going forward, the amount of money, currency that is being printed and created out of thin air worldwide is staggering. In the United States alone, we've already done $6 trillion in bailouts, not counting the banking, and now they're talking another $3 trillion. We don't have it. You could raise taxes all you want. You're not getting it, meaning they will be diluting this for a reason. Now, why this is important is because it's about the money supply. How much they're printing and putting into the system, known as M2. Take a look at the skyrocketing numbers of putting currency in the system, but then watch how the dead aspect of it, meaning its ability to produce, is diminished. Take a look at this. Since 1981, our money stock is up 12 times. 40, almost 50% of all the currency we've ever produced in this nation was produced in the last 18 months. If you notice from the chart on the left to 1960, where we're at today on the right, look at where we're at today on the right. How much money is added into the system? Now, we think that's great. We have more money. We have a bunch of this flying around. Everybody can do something, man. We're making it. There's currency everywhere. Well, number one, that's what inflation is. Too much currency chasing too few goods. And if you notice, we're having a difficult time getting things even as basic as refrigerator parts. But there's so much currency put into the system. There's one problem, though. It's dead currency. Normally, when the government would print a dollar, they could get maybe 90 cents of production. They would be able to put it into projects that would then stimulate salaries. And as you make money, then you go and spend money at the store. And then they take that money to the accountant and then they spend money. And we circulate currency. That's what makes the economy so valuable, is because we print money or we spend money or we earn money. Let's do it this way. You earn a dollar, then you go to the store and you buy a product. The store clerk gets paid for being there. The product people make money, and it starts to circulate. And then you make a little extra money. You decide to remodel your house or put a new roof on. And then the roofer makes money. And then the roofer pays people, and so forth and so on. This is what our economy was as we circulated this currency that was printed into the system. And then the banks would do nothing more than give us credit to expand and then pull the credit away. That's why we had the 3 major gyrations in our financial system. We just so happen to be at the end of a cycle. And folks, if you ever remember the music chairs, you don't want to be the last one standing, but you will be if you don't have things like this in your portfolio to protect yourself, because it's real, it's tangible. You can bury it in your backyard. You can stick it in a vault for your IRA. The important thing is it will be very valuable as the world goes into this great reset and these currencies get triggered. So I have to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So we talk about the M2 money supply, meaning how much of this they're printing and kind of putting into the system. And we think that's a good thing because I think it allows us to then produce and spread the wealth around, right? Not exactly. That is known as velocity, meaning how much of it printed. And like I said, in the old days, they could get 90 cents bang for the buck and it really produced. Today, we print $1 and we barely get 5 cents of production from it. It's known as dead money. So when we showed you that chart of velocity of M2 money increasing into the system, look at how it's being actually produced. Take a look at this. This is the velocity of the M2 money stock. Look interesting? Yeah, it's the opposite direction. So what do we make this of the stunning expansion of money and equally stunning collapse of money velocity? Ours is a dead money economy. New money is created in the trillions of dollars, but is either shipped overseas to exporters selling goods to we Americans, or it's being stashed somewhere rather than being exchanged for domestically produced goods and services. This is a big deal, you see. It's like we're bailing out the world. Look at the velocity of that money that's going in the system. It's dead. It's collapsing. That is your future standard of living. That is the inflation. That's why gasoline prices and food prices and clothing prices are going to be skyrocketing in the future. And then they want to do another $3 trillion on top of that. Here's another explanation to show a little bit about money-to-money zones, what we call, now this is interesting, it's zero expiration date money. Take a look at this. This is known as the MZM money stock. You can see it obviously is skyrocketing with the M2. Basically, that's money with zero maturity. It's the broadest component and consists of things like redeemable at par demand, like coins or currencies, traveler's checks, checks on deposit, savings deposits, money market funds, things of that nature. That is stuff that there's no expiration. Like this doesn't expire for now, but there's no expiration. And there's so much of this in the system, but yet look at how dead of production value we're getting from it. Look at still how the economies around, not mind you, but look at how it's not being produced. Now we're seeing a rally in the dollar rate now because of the way the components are taking place in the bond market, but take advantage of it. The prices are coming down a little bit in gold and silver. I would highly recommend taking advantage of that because we're at a point of implosion, which I call parabolic, meaning it's going straight up. And the best example to prove that, got to take a look at this chart. This is just an image of margin debt, meaning people borrow money to invest. If you notice to the left, look where we were at the dot-com bust, then the financial crisis of 2008. Look where we're at today on the right. Literally $1 trillion in margin debt. Margin debt, meaning people are gambling. They're borrowing money to invest into the market system. And what I didn't show you on that, because I didn't want to really get into it too much, but what was really stark about that more than anything else is as that margin debt goes up, there comes a point the sell-off happens. 20%, 50% collapse in the system because the market isn't real. It's margin debt. It's not real currency. It's not like I put my dollar in, I borrowed another dollar and did it. Now, when the market sells off, I've got to close that out quickly because most of it is borrowed money. You see, so not only do we have a crisis biblically, epically with food, on the heels of printing trillions of dollars that is producing a dead money economy as a result, we're as a nation and as a world globally in such a hyperbolic margin scenario in the stock market. When that thing comes down, it is going to be destructive at every level. Now, at that point, I contend maybe another year or two, they're going to try to play this along. And then this is where the whole great reset comes in, where they can retool us to digital central bank currencies and controlling us like slaves. But one thing I would encourage you to start looking into, if you're not going to go specifically to all physical gold and silver, which I would recommend at least a third of that portfolio better have some real asset base. But I know people are pretty big about crypto, and I just want to introduce this as an idea because this one is backed up by real physical gold. The floor of it is always going to be the gold price. The upside is exponential. Most of the market's going to be in Asia, but you can get involved in this at a very reasonable rate right now. It just started, and I want to introduce it to you. Take a look. This is a company known as Asia Broadband, AABB Wallet. It sends and receives crypto instantly, anonymously, and securely with the AAB wallet. Honestly, the stock itself, AABB, is very, very reasonable. I'd be buying that right now. But the crypto itself will be actual physical gold backed. It's just another option for those that want to get into something different. Until next week, folks, stay vigilant, be focused, keep the Holy Spirit centered.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.